Welcome to the Balanced Virtual Trainer Podcast. My name is Tyler Valencia, and I'm the president of KIPS and Time to Train Fitness and your Balance Ambassador. We have our guest today, Shannon Amrein, on the podcast to share her story, share what she's been doing in the wellness space, and all that kind of great stuff. First, Shannon, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Tyler. It's great to be here.
Yes. Let's kick this episode off with the same question every guest gets asked to kind of set the stage. Can you share a little bit about your business within the health and wellness space?
Absolutely. So my business is all about creating wellness within the mind, body, spirit. So I do spiritual wellness work. Essentially, I do shamanic and Akashic healing work. I do a therapy called Biomagnetism, and I do a lot of body reconnection work. And so I started doing all of that. And the reason I do it is because I had chronic Lyme disease for a huge portion of my life. Mm-hmm. And nothing in the traditional medical world could help me. Mm-hmm. Tried everything. And so I started to really look into what is health and wellness and how can I really cultivate that in my life, because I need that back in my life. Mm-hmm. And I started looking into all these different modalities, and eventually I actually had a spiritual healing session, and I went into remission in 30 minutes from years and years of chronic illness. And so from there, I was like, okay, this is amazing. I've got to figure out how I did that, and did a lot of studying and working on this in this realm, and to then start my business. So very much about the non-physical aspects of wellness, and then how when we work on the non-physical, we can heal the physical. Is kind of where I come from.
Gotcha. Quick question for you. Would you consider this practice to be hands-on? Because it's going to set up the next question.
So part of my work is very easily done, virtually. It's very much energetic. And part of my work, the biomagnetism work I do, is very hands-on. So it's kind of yes and no.
Gotcha. Well, that goes directly into the next question of kind of how has your business changed over the last 2 years? That's kind of been an interesting story to hear from guests, with how they adapted different techniques that they've had to utilize, or even how they run their business virtually. How has that kind of worked for yourself?
Yeah, it has been a huge amount of change. So when I started my business, it was totally virtual. And I was very much working with healing using the Akashic records. And the Akashic records, for anyone who doesn't know that, because I know it's kind of a niche thing is basically it's an energy field where we can connect into our soul's history and the energy and karma and programming that our souls carry from this lifetime, from our ancestors, from past lifetimes, all of that. So that was very much my focus. And it was all virtual because there was no need for it to be in person. Can do it anywhere in the world. And then from there, I wanted to be able to go deeper into my work. And so I was called to do an intensive shamanic apprenticeship. And so that brought in more body-based work and healing work that I do there. And from there, I then did a training in biomagnetism, which is a much more physical technique. And that was a huge part of my physical healing from Lyme disease. So I started biomagnetism, and then a couple months into doing those treatments, I then had my spontaneous remission. And so when I started doing that, my business became much more hands-on. So now I have a physical space, and I see clients in person. I still do virtual as well, but now it's a mix of both.
Yeah. Something that came up to my mind is that the word as you mentioned, niche is very popular these days. We hear a lot of business coaches talking about it's very important to have your niche. And with yours being one that it's great to have on the podcast to share and let people understand more of what you do. And that's great to hear all those things. And so what has kind of been your favorite aspects of growing a business like yours in your area?
Oh, there have been a lot.
That's good.
I mean, one of the best parts about growing a business like this is how rewarding it is. I mean, part of what keeps me going, because it's not easy. I'm sure anyone who has a business can agree with that. It's not easy. Is that I just get to work with the most amazing people, and like I end pretty much every day just being so grateful that I get to do this work, because part of how I describe the work I do and the things that I help people with is the shamanic work I do, which is basically everything that I do comes under the shamanic work, is very much about people come to me and they're seeking healing from the worst things that have ever happened to them in their life. So I hear things that people have never told anyone else ever. I hear like the worst moments of people's lives. I just hear it's a privilege that people trust me with that, and then trust me to help them work through it. And so that's been one of my favorite aspects, is just getting to see the relationship I get to build with everyone I work with, because it is such deep work that it's really, really rewarding in that sense.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. An interesting question I feel like that I have for you that can probably translate to people in other spots of the health, fitness, wellness industry is how you market your business. With it being a niche, what do you feel like has helped you grow your business? What are some of the tools that you feel have really helped? Oh, wow. Like I can attract people get my message and they want to come work with me, because people could take that information and apply it their own way. What do you feel like are those good tools for you?
Yeah. Several things. I mean, social media has been huge. That's a really huge blessing. Word of mouth, probably 70% of my clients are referrals. So once I just started getting enough people in to have referrals, then that's a huge part of how my business grows and markets. A lot of it's very natural. And then the other thing is to do this work. Honestly, it's very much how much of this work am I doing for myself? Like how much personal growth and development am I doing for myself? Because if I stop doing that, then my energy shifts and people don't find me. So it's like kind of an interesting thing within having a more spiritual wellness based business in this way, is that people find me as long as I'm out doing the work in my world and in my life.
Yeah. I would say that in my opinion, the things that you mentioned there, a lot of them can connect with listeners of this podcast and a lot of people in this industry, the health, fitness, wellness industry. There's always usually a story, a reasoning why that it becomes their passion, and they are so passionate about helping others. And sometimes it has that connection to themselves, that they had something that happened and it really pushed them to, I want to learn more. I want to be able to share this. I want to be able to help others that are potentially going through the same things. And it really does help, because as you know, with being a business owner, it's long hours, but it all becomes worth it with things that you just shared with people listening, or that people sharing things with you, and then you get to work with them to help them. Those are all things that I think people can really take away and probably resonate with tremendously. And so it's just really just taking different niches, different areas of this industry, which is part of why I like podcasting. We get guests that come on that can share their stories and people can connect with them in that same way. Now, to shift it a little bit to get some more information about your practice. Can you explain biomagnetism for the listeners?
Yeah. So biomagnetism is so interesting. So it's a therapy that is used all over the world, and it uses really high strength magnets. So not like the kind of magnet you put on your fridge. Like the magnets that we use in biomagnetism are like 1200 to 2000 Gauss, which is how you measure a magnet, and that's more than 10 times stronger than what a magnet you put on the fridge would be. And so the basis for biomagnetism is that our body, our whole world is, our whole earth is governed by a magnetic field. And so our body has its own magnetic fields. And so with the biomagnetism, the magnets are placed on different places in the body, and you put, different pairs on different organs, different places of the body to correspond to specific balancing. Essentially what the biomagnetism does is it helps the body balance its pH levels. And you can put there are different pairs to put on different places of the body that correspond to different pathogens, different imbalances, different detoxes, whatever it is that the body needs. And then with the magnets help shift the pH, shift the field of the body to then stimulate the immune system so that the body can heal from whatever it is that is being stored. Mm-hmm. So it's super interesting, and it's really, really powerful. It's not as well known yet as I hope it will be one day. Mm-hmm. But it is, I found it because I grew up in New Hampshire, and New Hampshire is obviously a really horrible place for Lyme disease. Mm-hmm. And there's a huge or growing, can't say it's huge yet, a growing community of biomagnetism practitioners in the New England area that focus specifically on Lyme disease. And it was the only thing that, besides the spiritual work, that made any difference to my body and my healing journey. Mm-hmm. And so then I was like, I've got to learn this and learn how to do it. But yeah, essentially it helps the body restore balance, maintain homeostasis. And it's compatible with everything. Like it's so gentle yet effective that it works. There's pretty much there are very few contraindications where you can't use biomagnetism.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
With these days, I feel like a popular term or saying that people will say with growing a business is experience. The experience that somebody has when they come to your business or with you're working with somebody. And with yours, with you owning your business and you how you're growing it, and I know this can be a very general way of asking this question, and I'm sure people come with a variety of things that you will take them through different things. What's that experience that you want them to have, and things that you do that are kind of across the board that you want each person to walk away knowing this or feeling a certain way? What are those things that involve experience?
Yeah. Ooh. One of the biggest experiential parts of my work, no matter what we're doing, no matter which of my services someone is coming in for, is focusing on learning how to become friends with the body again and learning how to be grounded in the body. And what I mean by that is most of us walk around every day and we're half out of our bodies. We're in our minds. We are not paying attention to how we feel, like that feeling when you get to the end of the day and you're like, oh, I haven't had anything to eat all day. And, oh, I'm kind of hungry now. We're not in our bodies. And that is one of the biggest things that is not one of the biggest, that is the biggest commonality I see in every single person who has any kind of health issue, has any kind of spiritual disconnect. Every single person who I work with, whether it's with biomagnetism or with shamanic work or with Akashic work, they are not in their bodies. And that's why healing isn't happening. That's why wellness is not coming through in the way they want it to be. And so one of the things I work with everyone is, how do you get in your body? How do you remember that your body's your friend? Because we have also so much messaging around us in our society about, your body needs to be better in XYZ way, right? We have all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so a huge part of the spiritual path and process of healing in the way that I do it is about learning how to be here, be in the body. And the more that we're in the body, the more we can allow all of these amazing techniques for healing, for fitness, for wellness. Like those things will stick when we're in our body. When things aren't sticking, when people are like on this constant journey, which is a lot of people come to me when they've been like, I have tried everything and nothing's working. And I feel like I'm just like on a hamster wheel that, like a hamster running on the wheel, like can't find anything. And the biggest reason that nothing's sticking is because there isn't any connection to the body. And so why would the body heal or shift into greater wellness if you're not there or paying attention to it?
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that came into my mind right now was in the last couple of years with how a greater emphasis has been placed on wellness and mental space, and with myself coming more from the fitness, strength realm, and that's what primarily my education is in. I would say that I've been actually very pleased to see more emphasis being placed on those, and even myself going through different things over the last few years to work on my mental space and be, just how you explained that, be more in tune with your body to understand how and why, and looking at the causation of things. And would you say that some people, or has this come up as well, as do people come to you as well for maybe preventative things that maybe over the last couple of years they've seen, okay, I do really feel outside my body. I feel like I'm not connected with my body. What are some things I can do to prevent certain things in the future?
Absolutely. 100%. Because there are definitely people who I work with who are not actively experiencing, huge symptoms of anything in their body, but they're like, oh, I'm realizing that, like you just said, I'm not fully in there. I'm not fully present.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to keep living that way.
Yeah.
So what can I do?
Yeah, but I really do. And I like that. I feel like that's been brought to more people's attention over the last couple of years. And it's sad to say that it took people being confined for them to realize the importance of things like mental health or understanding more things about your body. Because I remember learning about some of this stuff years ago. And it's like, yeah, it is important. And I was ignorant to it. I didn't take the time to learn more about it, but I see more, and the more that we can talk about it, share with younger generations, that they can too understand changes in their body, being able to cope with more things. I think those are all positive things in my book. So always very fascinating to learn more from different parts of the health, wellness, and all these kinds of things that I don't know about. So we're going to get to the podcast closing tips here, Shannon. And I've switched the question up just a slight bit to make sure that you can get the most out of it from our guest here. What are 2 closing thoughts on the future of the wellness and health industry that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Oh, okay. 2 thoughts. There are so many things I could say here. I mean, this is already happening based on, what we were just saying. But one of the big things I see shifting and changing more and more in the health and wellness industry is a greater emphasis being placed on it. And that's a lot of, like you were saying, a lot of that is because of the last couple of years and people starting to pay more attention to this. But with more emphasis being placed on the health and wellness industry, which is amazing because, I personally think that this is really where we need to go to really cultivate health and wellness in our bodies. It's much more than, what pharmaceutical can I take? But that's a whole other question. But one of my big thoughts on that is that the more that this grows, the more and more important it is to consistently, as anyone in this space, and this is a big value of mine as a business owner in this space, is to show up in as much integrity and honesty as possible in the health and wellness industry. Because the unfortunate part of it is that I have seen what can be unfortunate is I have seen places where it just doesn't, it feels not as honest, not as in integrity. Like you can tell there are times where it comes out like the industry can be misrepresented in that way. And so I think it's very important to be aware of that and be doing everything we can to show up in the best way possible. And another thought that I have on the future of this industry is just that this really is the way of the future. I really believe that. And I'm seeing that to be true myself in the work I do. I mean, it's a whole new way for people when they come work with me of like, oh, wow, I can actually shift my life in this way. And I don't need to use a tradition, like a more conventional method. And this is actually faster and more powerful. And so I think that's where we're heading, is reawakening to the power that we have over our own health, our own wellness, our own bodies, our own journeys, and taking back a lot more of our own personal power in those spaces, as opposed to giving it up to the more conventional methods that has been the norm, I think, for the last quite a long stretch of time.
Yeah. The one that I'm going to quickly touch on here is the first one, with just being more honest, having integrity with your work. And coming from the personal training realm, I can say that the individuals that act a certain way, I'll say there's a reason why movies and shows have a certain way that they depict personal trainers, because the way that they sell, the way that they work, all that kind of stuff. And it's not generally the best outlook on personal trainers and the fitness industry in that realm. So you're spot on with just making sure that you act in a honest, have integrity with your business. And I think that the issue that we sometimes run into as business owners, instructors, practitioners is that when things get tough, we sometimes want to cut those corners, but sticking to what you believe in, I think, is very important. And eventually things will come. I think that sometimes we get caught up with that. People hear stories of how someone cuts a corner a certain way or works in the gray area, and it doesn't help with promoting any type of industry or any type of work. So that is my thought on that. Shannon, before we sign off here on this episode, can you share your website, social media links, or any events that you have coming up?
Yeah, absolutely. My website is shannonamrein.com. My Instagram, which is where I'm most active on social media, is at shannon.amrein. I also have a Facebook page, that's Shannon Amrein, and a Facebook group where I share a lot of things. That's called the Healing Intuitively Circle. Actually, at the moment, I have a group program open for enrollment. We do actually start next Monday, but there's a little wiggle room for joining, and it's all about how to become your own healer and learn how to do this healing work for yourself. It's called Heal. And in-person sessions, I live in Colorado. So in the Colorado area, in the Colorado, like Denver, Colorado Springs area. And then all of my stuff on my website, shamanic work, Akashic work, I do womb clearing work, and all of that's on my website. So yeah.
Great stuff. Thank you for sharing so many things that I'm new to. I really appreciate that from being a podcast host and getting information out there for listeners, for them to expand and grow their knowledge base. So, Shannon, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Tyler. This has been great.